Hey everyone, I am back again this week with Alex Fiddleman, who is a certified clinical hypnotherapist and is talking to us this week about how to gain confidence when speaking publicly or speaking in conversation. So thank you. Welcome again, Alex. Thanks for being here. Last week we talked a lot. You have this amazing approach to hypnotherapy where most people think hypnosis is for calming yourself or, relaxing and getting into this kind of passive state, and they take it as a passive action. But I love that you take hypnotherapy and you turn it into such a high energy thing, which I've never heard this before. I feel like you take these techniques and you're like, you need to drive your life. You need to take active decisions and really go for it and raise that energy level. And I think that's fantastic. So I like getting this perspective a lot. This week, I would like to talk a little bit about confidence in conversation. And you said last week you didn't like the word anxieties. And I want to touch on that a little bit. But I feel like this is one of the fears that people have the most. Typically, one of the biggest fears that I've met with my clients is public speaking or talking to strangers or whatever that is. So why is it that you don't like the word anxieties?
Right. Well, first of all, thanks for having me here and inviting me today. The word anxiety is a very loaded word. What I mean by loaded is that it carries all sorts of meanings, especially in our world, which is very much influenced by the pharmaceutical industry. And I don't want to talk much about it, but the point is there is a clinical diagnosis called anxiety, and there are anti-anxiety medications and anti-depression agents and medications that are quite frequently prescribed by by psychiatrists, and not to say that there is a need for that, but in a lot of cases, and I do get these clients a lot who come here from either some unsuccessful experience with those medications, or after years of talk therapy, which is also great and it has its place, but they come here for hypnotherapy to really go deep and get things done. And both talk therapy and drugs do not help achieve that. So anxiety, and a lot of people think of it, oh, I was diagnosed with chronic or whatever, all sorts of types of anxieties, and I'm a victim. I can't help myself.
Right.
I have to take medications for that, like a headache. I don't take medication for headache either, because that relaxed state, which you refer to as this kind of a passive state, is a beautiful state, and it is the state you need. But you got it right that there is a lot of the high energy component is very important, especially when it comes to transforming the underlying patterns that we have within our subconscious mind, which in turn also help with anxiety. And that's why anxiety, anxious feelings, we like to use word anxious feelings not to kind of invite that negative kind of connotation or experience that people have with clinical anxiety.
Right.
So what is anxiety? And it's great you brought it up, because even though we're not talking about therapy per se, we're talking about conversational approach to hypnosis and confidence in speaking, in public speaking. If there's one component that everybody has to deal with, one main component that we all have to deal with when it comes to speaking publicly, is that underlying tension within ourselves. It may be as everybody has that tension. Every single one. Barbara Streisand, one of the legends, one of the best voices of all time, and with the amount of heart and connection she had with the audience, and she's such a natural person, but she had a time in her life when she could not even look in the direction of the stage, let alone sing in front of public, because she had a negative experience and she forgot the words of the song, whatever song she was singing.
Oh no.
And that created so much fear and resulting phobia Please forgive me, Barbara, if you're listening to that or someone knows. I don't know if she was ever diagnosed with any kind of clinical problems. I don't think so, but we say debilitating fear. Again, phobia is another kind of a diagnostic term. Debilitating fear, which is the same as phobia, basically, where it would prevent a person to go on stage. So anyone, even people like that, have this tension. I was watching the debate yesterday, and I mean, not the debate, it was post-debate, whatever, interview with one of the candidates on TV, and I was like, oh my God, he's scared.
You can see it.
And I mean, I can see it because
Right.
I see all kinds of people, and I can tell. But he's like scared. I mean, he's one of the top three candidates there, and he's scared on camera talking to a journalist. So everyone has it. This beautiful book was written by another legend. It was 25 years ago. Feel the fear and do it anyway. I forgot the name of the author. This very, very famous woman. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Recommend to anyone, regardless of how advanced you are in your own self improvement work, regardless of where you're on that path. That's the book of how to handle fear. And the main premise that she has, and this is her first book, she wrote works after that. The main premise that she has is that everyone will have fear. You can work with fear, but to a certain extent there will always be fear.
Right.
So how do you deal with it? You do it anyway. That's the best technique. You don't have to study anything else. Feel the fear and do it anyway. And it'll work.
I actually really relate to this because I did theater when I was younger, and I performed in audiences of thousands of people, and I remember I would always get a rush of adrenaline before I went on stage, and most people would consider that fear. And for me, I read it as excitement. It was like, I get to perform, I'm ready. But when I do public speaking, I feel differently. And now I'm a public speaker. So now I get that same rush, but it's like, it's almost a dread. And I think I've justified it because I had a script before, and now I'm just speaking from my mind and from myself, not from this character I'm portraying. So there's all sorts of reasons that people come up with to justify why they're afraid or why they're not excited or what that feeling is. But it's actually physically the same feeling in the body. It's just interpreted differently.
Absolutely, and physically is one of the key words. In hypnotherapy, we use one technique. It's called focusing. It's not only do you feel whatever emotions you feel, but you kind of mentally you close your eyes and you drop down below your chin and above your waist, and you really tune in your physical body and you feel whatever you're feeling now physically. And it's normally either throat, heart, anywhere in the chest,
Like
abdomen,
diaphragm kind of
solar
area.
plexus, of course, all anywhere in the abdomen. Different people, feel it in different places. And I have butterflies in my stomach. That's a physical thing. I got a lot of sadness in my heart. It's a physical thing. Do you feel it in your heart? Well, there is some evidence. There's something called Heart Math Institute, and they measured all sorts of measurable body signs, and they did come up with certain patterns which are measurable and mathematical, which do confirm that it is your physical heart, and
Wow.
it does actually store the emotion. But not to get diverted from our main issue, the anxiety it's a physical sensation. It does affect the way your hormones are produced, and secrets that are being produced by all sorts of glands within your body. And some people could think, oh, well, it's a chemical thing. It's a chemical disbalance in my body. So, and that's the main premise. Well, it is a chemical disbalance. Of course, it's a chemical disbalance. So I'll go and I start. I'll go to a doctor. I'll get a prescription, and I will manage my chemical balance. Well, I'll give you one example. If there is a loud noise, God forbid an explosion somewhere nearby, what's going to happen to our heart rate? It'll increase tremendously Some people will feel, the blood pressure could go up. All sorts of chemical disbalances will start to happen. Is that because it's I just I have a screwed up chemical balance in my body, or it's because there was an external stimuli that
Danger.
right? It was my mind,
Right.
the mind body connection. That's the mind body connection. It's my mind interpreted some kind of external stimuli in such a way that my fight or flight response was triggered. So now it's all sorts of chemicals, all sorts of hormones and secrets and chemicals within my body. They're just going out of whack, and now something needs to bring them back. What will it be? Well, I know that the stimuli will go away and I'll be fine. But anxiety or anxious kind of a state when it comes to public speaking, it is a very persistent thing, because if you have to be on stage in a few hours, it didn't happen yet. Easily said than done. Feel the fear, do it anyway, but my body is all torn apart by fear, by anxious feelings, and I can't get my mind straight. I'm trying to get into the self-hypnotic state, and I can't quiet my thought, or meditative state. I can't quiet my thoughts. What's going on? So of course there are techniques how to get that under control. And there is I know you guys, you want to hear some very clear, okay, give me 1 2 3, what should I do? Well, I teach my clients a lot. I had this lady with some neurological pain, which was a result of epidural, and she had that pain about 8 on a scale from 1 to 10 at all times. Always. She wakes up with that pain, goes to bed with that pain. So, she was lucky enough that the pain did respond to Advil. So she didn't have to take some crazy opiates or any, stronger medications than Advil. But still, she wanted to control it herself. So I did teach her how to bring it down from 8 to 2 or even to 0 on occasions, just with the power of her mind. So there are techniques how to do that. I can share some techniques. We'll get to that point. But the main thing, and I'm very passionate about it myself, because I'm more about not treating the symptoms and not using some quick fixes. Technique is a quick fix. I'm more for deep inner transformation. And that's why I really love this work, because I see people coming here with whatever emotional problems they have, and everything is everything has an emotion as a core. Well, the core is a belief, then there's an emotion, and then there's behavior. So any kind of problem, there's always an emotion. So if you find the core emotion and the core emotions and the core belief that these emotions arise from, and you can actually transform it, release it from the person's perception, from the person's body, his or her body, then there will be no symptoms to manage.
Right.
Not to say that there is a button inside of us that, if we find the right button or a number of buttons, we press them and the fears will go away. No. But the extent will not be there. The body will be much lesser extent, and there will be natural self kind of guiding, controlling mechanisms in place that will just, it's just an intention. Calm down.
Done.
And you calm down. Of course, you would need to use some kind of an affirmation, but because you clear all this garbage, all this baggage from within, the rapport between conscious mind and subconscious mind is so much easier to achieve. So you don't have to really go into the lengthy guided meditation, listening 15-20 minute audio, or going through some sequence of techniques to put yourself in a deep trance to really, kind of fool yourself in a good way, of course, fooling that, tricking that guardian at the gate, the critical factor to allow for this pathway to be created. And imagine how great it would be if there is really not much to bypass, not much to guard. You're so open, so clear, your heart is open, you feel your emotions, and you just set the intention, you say to yourself something, and boom, your body responds. That's what hypnotherapy does. It transforms the deep stuff within us. And, you know, if it's deep, there is a reason for that. Why it's deep is because it's suppressed. Why it's suppressed or repressed? There is a slight difference between the two words. Why is it suppressed? Because our subconscious mind has a mechanism in place to prevent us from freaking out. It doesn't know that if I do get scared to the point where it's really bad, it happens for a reason, and it's an indication for me to work with it. Subconscious mind doesn't like change. It thinks in terms of here and now. There's no past, there's no future, it's only here and now. So if my subconscious mind knows that Alex, when I was a smoker, Alex will be so frustrated, so upset, so sad, and he won't be able to fall asleep if he doesn't smoke that cigarette, 15, 20 minutes before going to bed. That subconscious mind will do everything it can to prevent me from being upset, to be frustrated, and for me to be able to fall asleep, because it doesn't know that long term, I want to quit because it's bad for me. It doesn't think in terms of long term.
Right.
So in order for me to convince my subconscious mind, I had to do hypnotherapy to bring that mechanism to my consciousness and show it literally to my subconscious. Look at it here. 1, 2, 3. That's what's happening. That's why it's better for me to feel sad for a few days while I'm going to go through the nicotine withdrawal for 72 hours. And after that, I'll be clear, and then another month with some psychological issues, and then I'll be so much happier. Subconscious mind needs to be convinced. So when it comes to public speaking, and it comes to this anxiety that people experience to different extent, unless it's a perfectly controlled or even let's say, unless it's a mechanism like you mentioned, in certain situations when you are in front of people, you do feel this kind of uneasy feeling, but it fuels it's strong enough for you not to be consumed by fear and to be pushed in the right direction. So it creates this kind of a certain amount of energy or adrenaline, let's say, in your system to go ahead and create that wave which you're gonna ride, and that's a beautiful thing, and we all have that. So, but then if the extent is greater and gets to a point where the person goes into a full-blown panic attack, then it has to be dealt with. So I've dealt with all kinds of people when it comes to that sort of uneasy feeling and anxious feelings. And in every, I'm wrapping up. I know I'm talking already for quite a long time. So just long story short, it always boils down to finding the initial situation in life. We call it initial sensitizing event. And it doesn't have to be the very first one, but it has to be early enough in life that we experienced. It could have been as benign as, overprotective parent saying, don't do that, or you'll break something in your body, and, just over and over and over again. And the person has a very sensitive, let's say, nervous system. So it was taken in such a way that, everything that presents any kind of potential for feeling uneasy freaks the person out. Or it can be as bad as, sexual abuse. It's like a continuum. There's a whole bunch of emotional issues, and they result from different events in the past for different people. But regardless of the problem and the extent of the severity of this issue, the regression to the cause, that's the main modality that we use and I use in my practice, is what gives this aha moment for our psyche, for the subconscious mind to understand, oh, that's why it's not logical to react in this way. Oh, I've been holding this kind of fear in my body for no reason. The event is not there. I drew wrong conclusions from this event. I formed absolutely unproductive beliefs because I was too young to make sense of the situation. And all of that was buried, but what's left is just this uncontrollable emotional response, which I absolutely hate, and it prevents me from doing whatever I need to do in life. Regardless of what it is, when you bring that to consciousness and you show this dynamic, how things are interrelated, and the main thing what happens, because there are always relationships, there's always a villain, in not always, in sometimes the villain is me, is the client, like, oh, I've hated myself for checking out in a certain situation, so I'm the villain. But regardless, there is always someone who we can relate to, and normally this I'm the villain is always related to an inner parent. Still, not going into too deep into the terminology of hypnotherapy and psychology, there is always someone related to this event in the past who you need to forgive, to let go. And a lot of people say, I've forgiven my mother a long time ago, I'm taking care of my mother now, we love each other, everything's fine. But when they go into regression and they relive a certain situation, and then they feel this hatred, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe I was holding that for so many years. And when they release it, and then we go through this, what we call the forgiveness and compassion formula. It's a beautiful process, it's a technique, but it's a very hypnotherapeutic technique. And then the person gets out of this hypnotic session. I'm like, oh my God, I feel like a huge weight was lifted off of my shoulder, and then check back with the fear. What fear? I'm excited. I can't wait. I want to go I want to go in front of people and start talking. Yeah. I'm so excited. And it had to do with a certain incident that happened, or a persistent kind of a pattern that started happening when the person was 5 years old. So hypnotherapy is this powerful. It's all the same. We talk about NLP, we talk about therapeutic processes in regular behavioral therapy, we talk about hypnotherapy, we talk about self-hypnosis. Whatever it is, if the change is made on the deep subconscious level, and I'm talking about change, the transformation, then whatever symptom we have to deal with is no longer there, or the extent is no longer there. And then we are empowered, we become free, and we can really, really, really excel in our lives.
That sounds like exactly the kind of thing that we need to be doing, right, to get over this. So I am so excited to talk to you again next week, because I feel like you have even more to share with us and to teach us. So thank you for joining us today. And you guys, I will see you again very soon.